Hello and welcome along to another episode of Formula Food. It is episode 2 of series 2 and we are back in Italy. We are back at Imola for the Emiliano-Romagna Grand-Prix d'Italy, or whatever it's actually called in Italian, which means, of course, one thing: we have the big Italian cooking Bible back out, La Cucina Regionale Italiana. And we are going back to what we did last series when we were in Imola. We tried to make Tagliatelle Ragù, as we can see. It's written here, but as we can tell, it's all in Italian. And again, I've been through, translated, got over my translation, made sure I've got the right recipe. We're going to mix it up compared to last series. Last series, we did two things from this recipe. We made the pasta, which didn't work, so first thing we're going to try and do this time is we're going to make the pasta, and it will work. We'll roll it really nice and thin, and so it doesn't just go massive, big, thick noodles of tagliatelle. That's what we're going to try and avoid this time. We're going to actually succeed in making the pasta. And if you can see here on the recipe for the ragu, I don't know how well this will show up on camera because it's quite fine print. There is my bookmark. Next to some of these things, it says facoltativo, which translates as optional. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and put into this some of the optional ingredients and see what sort of an impact that makes on making the ragu. First and foremost, the ragu itself, it doesn't take too long to make, so first and foremost we do need to make a start on pasta. So one of the things that we are starting with to make our pasta is we're going to start it off in a bowl this time, purely because it should make less mess on the work surface, making things a bit easier to clear up, and that'll just give us a chance to mix the egg into the flour. We're working with 400 grams of double O flour, double O grade flour, the really super fine pasta flour. So we've got 400 grams of that weighed out here. I better take my watch off, otherwise we'll end up with pasta dough in the watch. Make a nice well in the middle of here. Into which we will crack 4 eggs. Just get something to put the eggshells in once we're done with them.
Notte giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, narcisetto giro d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, narcisetto giro d'amor.
Right, 4 eggs gone in, eggshell out. We'll probably have that all sped up in post-production anyway, and then it's simply a case of just...
Non più avrai questi bei panacchini, quel cappello leggero galante, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante, quel vermiglio d'onesco color, quel vermiglio d'onesco color. Non più avrai quei panacchini, quel cappello, quella chioma, quell'aria brillante. Non più drai farfalloni amoroso, notte giorno di torno girando, delle belle turbando al riposo, narcisetto adocino d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, narcisetto adocino d'amor. Fra guerrieri può far bacco, grande stacchi stretto sacco, schioppo in spalla, sciabla a fianco, collo dritto, muso franco, un gran casco, un gran turbante, molto onor, poco cantante, poco cantante, poco cantante. Ed invece del fandango una marcia per il fango, per montagne, per valloni, con le nevi e salioni, al concerto di tromboni, di fanfare e di cannoni, che le porre tutti i tuoni all'orecchio fan fischiar. Non più avrai quei pennacchini, non più avrai quel cappello, non più avrai quella chioma, non più avrai quell'aria brillante. Non più avrai farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girato, delle belle tornando a riposo, Narcisetto ad un giro d'amor. Delle belle tornando a riposo, Narcisetto ad un giro d'amor. Cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, cherubino alla vittoria, alla gloria militar, alla gloria militar, alla gloria militar.
Okay, so we have made one pasta sheet. We have some spare hanging here that's normally rolled thinner, but this is rolled pretty thin. If I lift it up, once you've got light against it, it's sort of coming translucent. You can see fingers through it. It's not quite thin enough that you could read a newspaper through it, but you could definitely see the newspaper was there, which means that it's an improvement over what we got last time, especially considering I do not have a pasta machine, a pasta roller, which would make this whole process a lot easier. But regardless, we have some pasta. Rolled out thin, and what we're going to do is try and cut some long strips all the way through it, clump all these bits back together, roll it out again until we have enough pasta for 4 people. So probably end up speeding this up in the edit. Get a ruler and cut this. Okay, you can see just in the corner of shot we have the pasta done. It is sitting there, air drying off, and it's all cut up into ribbons. We've got our little, just under a centimetre wide Tagliatelle ribbons. They'll go into a pot of salted water to cook once we've got the actual ragu made. The ragu is going to be pretty much the same as I said last time, but we're going to be adding some different ingredients from the optional ingredients section of the recipe, like I showed you earlier. What we're putting into the pan now, a pan full of melted butter and some olive oil is some celery, an onion and a carrot. They're going in and they're going to simply fry off in the pan in the oil, and then we'll start adding the meat that actually makes up the ragu. And as before, that will be a 50-50 mix of pork mince and beef mince. So next into our pan, as before, goes our beef mince. We've gone for a really nice 15% here, nice and with a good amount of fat on there that will help keep this nice and moist and rich. That will go in there, and a 8% pork. And they both go in there. We'll break those down. And you want to sear these until the meat is actually slightly crunchy, according to my translation from the recipe. So that's what we'll do. Okay, while the beef and pork mince cook down, I'll introduce you to some of the extra ingredients that we've put into here. We are going for prosciutto, salami, and pancetta. Pancetta is going in place of guanciale. I could not find guanciale for the life of me. Guanciale, I think it's a pork cut from the cheek. It's supposed to be absolutely beautiful, and it's traditionally used when you're doing a carbonara. Instead of when you do it, the really simple one, it's probably supposed to use guanciale, I believe. Salami, because on the translation from the recipe it says... Salsiccia, optional, which translates as like a salami or a sausage. So, salami. And then the prosciutto, it simply says, yeah, prosciutto. As for crudo tritato, I've got prosciutto crudo, which I think is the sort of dry cured one, which is the slightly darker prosciutto. You can get the lighter one, I can't remember what it's called, but there we go. We've got the 3 optional pork bits that are going to go in. I know the salami is going to add a nice amount of flavour to it as well, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. Okay, the next step of what we're going to put into our ragu sauce is we need to add a glass of wine. Normally I use red wine, but today we're branching out, we're using this. It's an Italian Pinot Grigio. We're going to just put in a dash. There we go. And some beef stock. There we go. And we'll give that a good stir in and leave that to simmer. Now at the moment it doesn't look very dark or red at all like you imagine a bolognese or a traditional ragu to look like. That's because we have one final thing to add, and that is 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, which will help thicken this up and equally give it that lovely deep red colour that we're used to seeing with these sort of dishes. So we'll leave that to simmer. And soon it'll be time to get the pasta, which is here, into that pot there and cooked. Hopefully it'll go well, or at least better than it did last time, which will be an improvement. Eventually one day it might work.